First story is titled, Update. Would I be the a-hole if I got help from a charity despite our joint income being very high? Original story. My husband, 38 male, and I, 24 female, have a combined income of $60,000 per year, or thereabouts. He is the big earner at $50,000, and I scrape by on a much lower income part-time job. He has always been very protective of his earnings, as he has worked very hard for the job he has. Since moving in together, we agreed to mostly keep our own expenses separate. If I buy things for the household, like shopping or cleaning, bills, etc., we split them in half. If I go to the store, I give him the receipt and he adds up how much of the items are shared and transfers me half. Anything we get for ourselves is paid for out of our own accounts, any personal expenses, etc. He does, however, pay a much higher proportion of the rent. This has worked fine for us. I do the majority of the housework to make up for not contributing as much, and because I have more free time around my job. The issue we have right now is that I'm pregnant. And because of our agreement, I am expected to pay for anything medical, any bits I need for the duration of the pregnancy, or anything I will need post-birth for myself, out of my own money. He will pay for half of anything directly relating to the baby, but everything else is my responsibility. I am in a position now where I simply can't cover everything, and any conversation I have tried to have has ended up with the same outcome. I knew what the agreement was before we started trying. I generally thought that would be able to cover a lot more, or that some of the things are more to do with the baby than me, so he would help. But he has very clear definitions of what is for me and what is for the baby. Thanks to insurance, a lot of medical bills are covered, but having to buy a whole new bigger wardrobe and things I didn't originally think of that I need or will need, breast pads, maternity pads for after the birth, etc., are adding up. There is a charity nearby which would help to supply some of these things, but I feel absolutely awful turning to them when I know it would make such a small dent in my husband's wage, and he would be perfectly capable of covering it if he was inclined to. I just feel a bit desperate, but I am completely torn up as to the ethics of it. So would I be the a-hole for asking for some help from this charity? Edit. Please don't message me telling me to get a termination. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. The a-hole is your husband. This is financial abuse. Ding ding ding. Definitely financial abuse. Absolutely. And you should be asking yourself if it's okay for you to get help from a charity. You should be asking why you have to. I'm so sorry, but your husband is a real problem. You are being financially mistreated, and I'm not even going to touch the age gap. She should look up what the average surrogacy costs and charge him half of that for rent of her womb and permanent damage to her body. Or, leave the a-hole? I wonder how much you like paying court-ordered child support. Hold up. Your husband doesn't think you should help pay for the pregnancy? It's not like you just suddenly became pregnant on your own. He contributed just as much into making that child. He is just as responsible, and you need to hold him to that. You have to carry that baby in your body, and your body will handle the consequences, not his. But he still gets his child out of this. Not the a-hole, but your husband should be helping you. Finances seem to be its own problem in your relationship too. Actually, since he likes his relationship in legal terms, Google around and find out what child support average are during pregnancy and bill him. Your husband is mistreating you financially. It's something that happens often in relationships with large age gaps. Leave home now and go somewhere safe. And now for the update. I am sorry it has taken so long for an update, but I wanted to thank all the people who commented and sent links to helpful places. The short story is that I left. It has been very hard. I am a single mother and I have completely cut off from my ex-husband. He does not pay any money to me or for my baby. I did what people here recommended, and I spoke to the people at the charity and some of the women around the town. They were all horrified by it, and I think it was their reaction that made me properly realize I was not in a good position. They helped me. They helped me leave and find a shelter and a job. I'm able to stay until I have enough to rent a place of my own. One woman and her husband paid my medical bills, and I am so eternally grateful to them. I will never be able to repay them. I made them my child's godparents. To answer some questions left over from my last post, I did not initially want to have a baby, but my ex-husband convinced me that it was for the best. When I wrote the post, I was too far gone to change my mind and have no regrets now, and my child is the light of my life. I do not have any family left, As my parents died when I was young, and my grandparents on my mom's side raised me until they passed away when I was in my late teens, I had nobody to turn to or to help me until I reached out to the people in the town. Thank you to you all again. Please, please, please get child support from this sperm donor. He wanted this child. He needs to pull his weight. It takes two to make a baby, and he absolutely does not deserve to get away scot-free for his actions. The monetary support will be worth it. You and your baby deserve it, so baby can have the best life possible. The only reason I would have to say no to that is that it would require him to know her mailing address, thus giving him an idea on where she is. Now, if I'm completely wrong, then please let me know. I don't know. It is of course up to Opie and what she does. Hopefully, she won't need him ever for anything. As far as I'm concerned, that donor isn't anything but someone who donated half of his DNA to another being. At least in my state, they have options for filling out papers if you feel unsafe, where the ex does not get your address, and you can get a restraining order at the same time. Ex pays the court, and court distributes the money. I'm so happy for you and your baby that you escaped and are building a safe and happy future. Best of wishes to you, you brave soul and awesome mother. I'm glad everything turned out great for you, but he needs to pay child care. Not for you, but for your kid. It will be helpful for them when they are older. OMG, I just read the original post. That disgusting predator? I'm so glad that you got out and that you're okay. You seem very resistant to chase for alimony, etc. or have any contact. I'm wondering in word it is because you're afraid of something he might do. You don't have to answer, but that is what I am worried about. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law my baby's cancer is not about her? I have not told my husband's family, and that is because we really do not speak. My husband knows, but even with him we are unable to talk on a regular basis due to me being at the hospital and the time difference where my husband is and my emotional state. He understands this. He's supposed to be home in a few weeks, but a date is uncertain. Mother-in-law called me today and asked why I haven't called her to tell her about my daughter's diagnosis and why I haven't been updating her daily since I've been here. To which I said I have been emotionally and physically drained. That I could try my best to give her weekly phone call updates, but that daily updates via call and or text is not possible for me. We also don't have social media, but I probably wouldn't post updates there either. She then stated again that she wanted daily updates. No mention about if I needed anything or how I was doing. I proceeded to say, the best I can do is try to give you a call with a daily update. I then told her I needed to get back to my baby's room as I had already stepped out for longer than I would have liked. She started crying and said, "You have no idea how I feel. I'm hurting the most than anyone else possibly could." Excuse me? I replied with, "My baby's cancer is not about you. I need to go." She hung up and that was that. Am I the a-hole for telling her my baby's cancer is not about her? I feel like this is going to be no contact territory at this point. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, and I'm so sorry you're going through this. I'm hurting the most than anyone else possibly could. Seriously? Hurting more than your little one or yourself? Toxic narcissism doesn't even begin to describe your mother-in-law. Best wishes for your little one's recovery. That's exactly what I wanted to say. How could anyone be feeling how my baby's feeling or how I'm feeling? I understand that it's hard and it's depressing. My mom is super sad and feeling terrible, but she still shows up for me. Every day, calls to check in and doesn't get butthurt if I don't answer. She's been very supportive, and maybe that's because I'm her daughter and she knows what I would feel if I had cancer and she was in my shoes. I don't know. Honestly, the only person capable of feeling anything close to the suffering of mom and baby is dad, who can't even be there as a support and has to be away during this time. To imagine she hurts more than her son who can't be there is bonkers. Best wishes for you and yours, and go no contact. You need to focus on you. There's a thing called the rings of something, influence or need or something, where you ask for support outwards of the crisis, but she is expecting support from the people most affected, which is so wrong. Yes, this was my thought. Like, really? My husband hasn't been the most hands-on father since little Juan was born, but he is her father. I don't know how my mother-in-law somehow thinks her pain and sadness trumps that of her own son. I really can't wrap my mind around that. Yes, I've been reading about the rings of grief. Really, really good. Not day hall. Refer to ring therapy. It's a great system for demonstrating how support should be handled in situations like this. If your mom is up for it, I'd ask her to be the point of contact for updating family members other than your husband. This will massively reduce the amount of stress you are currently experiencing, as well as what will be added once more people know. Have her be a protective shield so all your energy is focused on yourself and your child. If your mother can't, see if there is someone else that can do it. Someone who will put your needs first and shield you from the bombardment of questions. But they can also let others know how they can actually help. Update. Thank you for all the kind responses. I decided to delegate my mother as the person who would update all family, including my husband's. When things get a little more situated, I will probably have my close friend make a Caring Bridge account for me, and my mother can share that with everyone. Also, I think some people forget that my mother is my mother, and we are close. No, I'm not giving her updates daily. Most of the time when she drops off something for me at the hospital, she asks me if I'm okay and offers a lot of hugs and rubs my back, and I cry while she holds me. She's yet to ask anything from me. Therein lies the difference. The relationship I have with my mother-in-law has been strained for some time now. She often believes that I am the one responsible to initiate communication and to foster the relationship between her and myself, and her and my daughter. The effort she has put in over the past year and a half has been minimal, to say the least. But yet, still feels entitled and expects me to visit her home often, call her, update her, text her, etc. For the past month, I have been in and out of the ER and doctor's visits trying to get to the bottom of my baby's back pain, and she's known about these visits, my husband tells her. Not once has she reached out and asked how we were or how I was. So, to those who expect me to treat her equally as my mother, is just really asking too much. I haven't been treated with kindness, respect, or empathy ever since I gave birth. She could have easily made an effort to any degree to love me, and she has made it very clear to me over the year that she doesn't care for me to any capacity. Not as her son's wife, and not as her granddaughter's mother, let alone as her own daughter. Whether she likes it or not, my baby is related to me and I am her mother, and that will never change. She doesn't have to like me, but there does need to be respect, and there hasn't been. So that's currently where we were before my daughter's diagnosis. I'm not closed off to reconciliation and healing, but that will also require ownership of the things that have happened and have been said, and respect for me as a person and as a parent moving forward. All things my therapist has suggested and encourages. Edit to Ed. My brother, who is also in the military, sent me 2 meals this weekend via DoorDash. I didn't ask him to, and he didn't even ask me if I needed meals. He just did it. I didn't update him either. Mother-in-law has yet to ask if I needed anything, if my little one is okay, or how we are doing, etc. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for making my mother-in-law cry at her father's funeral? My mother-in-law isn't great. She's snobby, immature, and has always favored her daughters because your son is only your son until he gets a wife. She likes to remind me that she has more than me, and literally waves things in my face and tries to play it off as a joke. She isn't the devil as she can be very nice, but only on her terms. Mother-in-law's father, who I'd only met a couple of times, died recently, and mother-in-law demanded that we all go to the funeral. Father-in-law did not want to go and did not think she should go, but mother-in-law said people would talk and pressured us all to attend. We rode together and she was silent the entire car ride, which is weird because she never shuts up. When we got there, we stayed to ourselves and did not speak to her siblings or her mom. I'll explain the quotes later. They had some pictures on display and there was only one family picture that included her. She looked about 12, and it was kind of weird because they were clearly somewhere cold and she was the only one not wearing a coat. She was super, unhealthy thin, and her clothes didn't fit her well. My husband made a comment to me about how strange it was, and one of my mother-in-law's brother overheard and asked if we didn't know that she was the affair baby. And then he laughed and said that that was his parents' agreement, that if his dad had to bring her home, she would never be treated like one of his other kids. My husband went over to father-in-law and mentioned what his uncle had just said and asked if he knew. Father-in-law said of course he knew, and that is why he did not want to go. I didn't realize that mother-in-law was behind me, and said that it actually explained a lot. I honestly didn't mean it in a bad way, but it does explain why she's so focused in having things. Mother-in-law started to cry, and I laughed because I am a nervous laugher. Father-in-law got mad and told her they were going and never should have come. I did text her that I am sorry for laughing and explained that it was a response. And she wrote back, "How about you just don't talk about me behind my back?" My husband says I did nothing wrong, but I feel really bad. You're the a-hole. You listened to and actively spread gossip at the funeral of her father. Mother-in-law's brother is a super a-hole here for spreading that. You did a truly awful thing at what might be the most vulnerable a person is in their entire lives, the death of a parent, and made it a time for not only grief, but also shame for her. But did she? My husband made a comment to me about how strange it was. My husband went over to father-in-law and mentioned what his uncle. It sounds like it was her husband, her son, that was discussing this, not Opie. The Opie commented, "I didn't realize that mother-in-law was behind me," and said that it actually explained a lot. But it could actually be interpreted as trying to understand a difficult person, or at a lower level, be quite insulting and rude. It sounds to me that it was her son that was gossiping, not the Opie. She was silent the entire car ride, which is weird because she never shuts up. Nice. Was the snarky comment necessary here? Her dad just died, so that you're thinking like this on that occasion says something. I did text her that I am sorry for laughing and explained that it was a response. You texted her? Like not worth a call or anything. You're the a-hole. I'm sorry she isn't always nice to you. But the way you talk about her, I can imagine your tone with that comment at the funeral. Maybe she deserves some resentment from you, or maybe you're both equally snarky people. But for this here, you're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Sure, she could be a better mother-in-law. But even an awful mother-in-law shouldn't be laughed at when her family finds out she was mistreated as a child while she's waiting to bury her father. Her brother laughed when he told them about the abusive atmosphere he benefited from and probably participated in. The family had zero shame displaying a picture where the abuse was obvious. Just awful. Yes, that explains a lot, but that comment could have been saved for between Opie and husband later instead of literally right then. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.